Hey, good morning. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday morning. Today, this is going to be the part 3 of the series. This is about the Tsimshian. The Tsimshian. Oh man, everything's crazy. They put a bunch of consonants together and then throw a vowel in somewhere. And they just go like eeny, meeny, miny, mo. There we go, throw it in there. And they make words. Oh man. But again, this is from Chabad.org. This is a gentleman, Nissan Dovid Dubov. This whole article is by him. This is I guess a really, really super summarized version of Kabbalah. But Kabbalah is Jewish mysticism. Jewish mysticism being Pharisees and the Sadducees, the Levites of the time of Christ, I would say. These guys were the Jewish scholars, religious scholars. Christ told them that they had the keys to the kingdom, but yet they did not enter in, and nor did they allow anyone else to. He called them a brood of vipers. Called them all murderers too. They called them sons of the devil. Reason being is that they had the knowledge, they knew, but yet they didn't go in, and nor did they allow anybody else to. They had the knowledge though. So, I'm here to share a summarized version of that knowledge. When I came across this, it blew my mind. I was like, it confirmed so many things that I've been feeling for so long. Just, I thought everybody had told me that that everybody seemed to be in congruence, that God is outside of us, and and God is everything and everywhere. This whole place wouldn't exist without God continuously bringing it together. But let's get into it. This is the Tsimshian. The previous videos or chapters were about God himself, what God is, and then the ladder, how the energy comes through into through the dimensional realities, through the worlds, and how also it goes backward. Everything, it's both ways. Everything's just two halves to one whole. So the Tsimshian, Kabbalah examines the very origins of creation. In the Kabbalah, God is referred to as the Ein Sof. Well, they'll give a meaning the being that has no end. In the act of creation, God made something very finite out of the infinite. So something finite, something measurable from something immeasurable. How did this come about? While some Kabbalistic texts speak of the gradual contraction of the divine power as it streamed into the finite world, eventually reaching a point of complete concealment in this world. The Kabbalah of the Arizal, however, held a different view. According to the Arizal, there was a quantum leap from infinite to finite, calling this leap of states the Tsimshian, the contraction. In order to visualize how this happens, the Etz Chaim of Rabbi Chaim Vital presents the following structure. The power and ability of the Ein Sof is called the Or Ein Sof, or the light. Now, in previous videos, I've discussed how the etymology, or the descending, how the word light has descended into our known language today. It comes from or, meaning light. So was the meaning for, it was the word for gold. I believe it's UR on the periodic table. Don't hold me to that. I literally have to look. It's been a while since I've seen a periodic table. I'm going just by memory from like years and years. But yeah, like it comes from that. That's why the chemical makeup for gold is, I believe it's OR or UR. But that's why that is actually. And well, light. The ancients described gold as light that had been like deposited in the earth as pure light, pure gold. They purified it. They took the impurities out. They quenched it in the fire. You know what I mean? Like it's everything that we go through in this world. It's a, I don't know. They held it in high standard, and obviously, shoot, we still do today. So there was good reason for it if we still hold it very precious today. There's a reason why we call precious metals precious. But moving forward, I'm so sorry. There I go, jumping in the way. So, in order to visualize how this happens, the contraction, seems soon, right? The contraction of the energy. So we're talking about Big Bang, and the first contraction before the explosion, because everything, when you notice when something explodes in slow time, it actually goes inward and then outward. There's a delay. It's very, very split second, but absolutely science will agree that it is there. Everything goes inward then outward because the energy is compressed. And then because of the compression of that energy, it is then forced outward because there's no space. There's nothing. The vacuum has then been filled now. And now it's going to flow outward. And, I don't know, there's greater energy than mass. No. The mass is compressed and the energy is the same. It's released. That's it. But in order to visualize how this happens, the Etz Chaim of Rabbi Chaim Vital presents the following structures. The power and ability of the Ein Sof is called the Or Ein Sof, the light of the Ein Sof. Because physical light is perceived as being ethereal and intangible, and because light gives life and warmth, it is often used in Kabbalah as a metaphor for divine power. The initial stages of revelation, the prevalent manifestation was that of the infinite light contained within the Or Ein Sof. In a most sublime way was the potential for finitude. However, initially it was undistinguished from the powerful manifestation of the Or Ein Sof. In order for creation to take place, it was necessary somehow to conceal the infinite light, thus creating a vacuum for the finite light to be revealed. One may draw an analogy to a ray of light from the sun. While it is within the sun, the ray has no independent identity, because it is totally nullified by the greater light of the sun itself. Only when the ray has left the sun can it be recognized and perceived as having an independent identity. Emanations. I'm just going to say that, because there's so much being said right there. That statement, that was just, that paragraph is so deep into so many other things that I trip over my own soul, right? Like just reading those words, I literally trip within myself, just going, does anybody understand the depth and the breadth of what was just said? What that means for all of us? It's just incredible. To explain further, a parallel may be drawn from the world of teaching. Imagine Albert Einstein entering a primary school and being invited to teach a class of elementary mathematics. For the genius to communicate with the child's mind, it is necessary that he put to the side all the theories and complexities of advanced mathematics, and to focus on basic addition. In time, the child he is teaching may progress to study mathematics in high school, college, and then university. The student may even become a professor of mathematics himself, and may even surpass Einstein in brilliance. However, in the first stages, the end product was concealed. The same is true with regards to Tzimtzum. God purposefully drew back the infinite to create a space in which finitude could be realized, could be made real. This concealment of the Or Ein Sof is called by the Arizal, the Tzimtzum HaRishon. This first Tzimtzum was the most radical in the sense that it was the quantum leap that allowed finitude to finally surface. It must be noted that the concealment of the Or Ein Sof did not affect Atzmut itself, for Atzmut is the essence of God which transcends everything, including changes. So Atzmut is higher on the tree, or higher on the tree, because everything's backward. So everything's mirrored. But it's within the top three, you know what I mean? So it's within the last two, or actually the last three are within the realm of the unseen. The other two, the last two, are actually with the divine. The last one is like the Holy of Holies. Only God is there, and only on certain times of the year may a part of you enter in. Okay. This is what Malachi the prophet meant when he spoke, I, God, have not changed. God remains the same after creation as before creation. After creation as before creation. He remains totally aloof from any changes within the creation. All change took place within a manifestation of revealed power, the Or Ein Sof. So all the change happened within his power, not within him. He just changed the way he was directing it. That's all that happens. God just moves, he just shifts. He doesn't change, he just shifts his energy, he shifts his power, he shifts his light. He shifts his motives. No, I think the motive's still the same. The only thing that changes is we change. So our perception of him changes. That's all. God is always the same. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow, forevermore. Hasidism explains that what was left after the Tzimtzum were the letters of the residue, the Reshimu. The Zohar states that he engraved letters in the supernal purity, i.e., in the Or Ein Sof. He inscribed letters, he spoke letters into his power, into his light. He intent. He gave meaning to what he was doing. He gave a reason, a motive, a why. He gave a why. So, Hasidism explains that what was left after the Tzimtzum were the letters of the residue, Reshimu. The Zohar states that he engraved letters in the supernal purity, i.e. in the Or Ein Sof. This means that when it arose in God's will to create the world, God measured out within himself in potential what would exist in actuality. So he went within and mapped it all out within himself, just like, yeah, we're going to do it like this, like that, like that, like that, and we'll do it, oh man, this will link up with that, and that with that, and oh man, dude, it's going to be amazing. And he sat there and he figured it all out. And then he went forth and did it. So, in the Zohar, this act of measuring, so in the Bible, God has the prophets measure the temple. He has them measure things. So it even the Bible gives us a not a command, but it's something like, go and figure out what you're doing prior to doing it. Like, if we go through and read the Bible with some really, really new eyes, then I think some things will really start to click and make a lot of sense, and that people will have practical use for what our Bible was speaking all those years ago. Because it's still the same today. I don't know if anybody doesn't notice that, but it's all still the same today. The only thing that's changed is we've changed. That's it. That's all that's changed. So, in the Zohar, this act of measuring out is referred to as engraving letters. These letters signify the structuring and formation of the divine will prior to the Tzimtzum. They are the potential for limitation that existed within the Or Ein Sof. They were there, but they weren't realized yet. They were within the original idea, the original imaginative thought, the original creation, because everything was concealed within that creation up until it was actualized, realized, like, yep, now I see how that's working. Like, the trees still all grow, even though we don't know how they grow, right? Even before science figured out how trees grow, and oxygen and carbon monoxide or dioxide is either neutralized or promoted in the air, you know what I mean? Like, the trees were still doing it, even because we didn't know they were doing it. Now we just understand the process, but it was already there. The understanding was already there. We just haven't realized it. We haven't perceived it. We haven't actualized it. We haven't made it real. Explained another way, in order for finitude to take on parameters and definition, there had to be some form of definitive language. These dimensions are called letters. Letters are the building blocks of words, which can build sentences, speak a language, and subsequently communicate. The Kabbalah calls these letters vessels, or kelim. And the meaning within the words, light, or orot. So the meaning of the words is light. God spoke light into existence. These dimensions are called letters. Oh, sorry, my bad. Every sentence is composed of letters, which are the vessels for the meaning of the sentence. And the message conveyed, which is called the light, or the or, the revelation of vessels, came about through the Tzimtzum. The revelation of letters, the revelation of everything, of material, the revelation of matter. Although they existed in an abstract form before the Tzimtzum, as previously stated, within the Or Ein Sof was also the power of finitude. Prior to the Tzimtzum, these letters were filled with Or Ein Sof, with the light of the endless being. And they represented only the potential for limitation, but not limitation itself. Just the potential for it to be. The function of the Tzimtzum was to remove the Or Ein Sof that flooded the letters so that limitation and finitude could be actualized, so that vessels could be created to conceal the light of God in this world, in prima matter, zipped up and clothed in flesh, in matter, in grass, birds, trees, dirt, rocks, water, air, fire even, all of it. It's all vessels for creation, some form or facet, whether it's cleansing or actual birthing, but even cleansing is part of the birthing process. Alright, I don't want to get off topic, I'm sorry, my bad. when I start to get in the way, that's normally when things go awry. So, in order for there to be diversity within the creation, it was necessary to reveal different qualities and attributes within the divine. So it was necessary to reveal different qualities and attributes, different emanations, different parts, different sparks. These attributes are called sephirot, and they are the building blocks of creation. Every sephira, or attribute, is comprised of lights and vessels. It must be emphasized that the existence of the sephirot in no way implies plurality within divinity. There's only one God. Our God is one. The sephirot are not separate entities within the Or Ein Sof. To quote the Sefer Yetzirah, the 10 sephirot are bli ma, or without substance. Their end is wedged in their beginning, and their beginning in their end, like a flame bound up in a coal. For God is one, and there is no second to him. This same metaphor is employed in the Zohar. The Holy One, blessed be He, emits 10 crowns, supernal holy crowns, with which He crowns Himself. He is they, and they are He, just as the flame is bound up in the coal, and there is no division there. So all the flame is bound up in one coal, but though it's, many flames coming off of it, right? Even though it's a giant flame. Hasidism compares the Sephirot as they were in the pre-Tzimtzum state to the potential of a spark from a flintstone. Even if the stone has been immersed in water, there still remains potentially the ability to strike the stone and make fire. In no way could we say that the spark has a separate identity within the stone. However, as the Sephirot emerge in the post-Tzimtzum state, they are indeed like a flame bound up in a coal. The flame definitely has a separate identity, yet its whole existence is completely bound up in the coal. Get it? We are all one with God, but yet God is one already without us. All of us are in God, but yet without God, we are nothing. In order to visualize what happened after the initial Tzimtzum, Rabbi Chaim Vital presents the following graphic. Imagine a circle and the circle is full of the Or Ein Sof. No finite existence may be created within this circle, for the light of the infinite totality occludes it. The Tzimtzum concealed the Or Ein Sof, so that within the circle is left a void within which something finite can be created. The next stage of creation was the introduction into this circle of a beam of pre-Tzimtzum light called the Kav. Contained within this light were all the ingredients for the creation of the various worlds. The difference between a circle and a beam of light is that the circle has no beginning and no end. Around its circumference, one can move ad infinitum. The circle represents the infinite light of Sovev Kol Almin, the light that surrounds all worlds, which is peripheral to all worlds. Hasidism calls it an Or Makif, a transcendent light. The Kav, on the other hand, is a line which has a beginning and an end. The Kav represents the chain of worlds in the post-Tzimtzum state, in which there are higher worlds and lower worlds, rather like the various rungs of a ladder. In the higher worlds, the light is very intense and God's presence is absolutely manifest. As the Kav progresses, the measure of light is reduced further and God's presence becomes more concealed within the vessels. At the center of the circle is this world. This is the lowest point of the line, at which the light is totally concealed within the physical creation. The four worlds: Absolute, emanations; Baraya, it's the world of creation; Yetzirah, the world of formation. Okay, formation's a part of this world. Okay, formation. And Asaya, action. So, emanation, creation, formation, and action are the four worlds. Kind of like thought, feeling, spirit, and physicality. There's so much here, man. I don't know how much I can reveal. I just kind of want to leave it up to everybody to their own interpretation for what they feel, what they see, and what God reveals to you. Because normally those who know don't speak, and those who speak don't really know normally. It's a dance. To help understand this difficult concept, let us imagine a beam entering a circle and then creating concentric circles, rather like the layers of an onion. In our case, the circles are Yetzirah, formation, and Asaya, action. As the Kav enters the circle, or in our analogy, the outermost layers of the onion, the first stage is the world of Absolute, Baraya, Yetzirah, and finally Asaya, which is our world. Follow Absolute, reaching deeper and deeper towards the center. The entire light of the Kav is the light of Mamale Kol Almin, the light that fills all worlds. The light is an Or Pnimi, inner light, as opposed to Savev Kol Almin, which is an Or Makif, which is like a greater light, like the light that surrounds all worlds, right? The light that embodies everything, but also the light that, so the light that conceals everything, but also the light that is concealed. Yeah. It sounds so super confusing, but our bodies are made up of stardust, and our soul is made up of the light of God Himself, herself. We are concealed in light, in an envelope of light, and we are light itself. We are God made manifest in the world. But we will only be God when we can work together, when we can come together and be one, move as one, work together in love and harmony and peace, understanding. Then we will be God made manifest. But until then, there's a lot of the other guy running around. But moving on. In the teaching metaphor, the purpose of Einstein removing quantum theory from his mind was to reveal elementary mathematics to the student. The process was for the purpose of revelation, so that the student would eventually progress to higher levels. The same is true of the Tzimtzum. The purpose of the Tzimtzum was not mere concealment, but also for revelation, a descent for the purpose of ascent. Through Tzimtzum, a finite world was created. The Torah and mitzvot can be likened to clothing or garments that are covering the Or Ein Sof. This world, with all its limitations, cannot contain the infinite light in its revealed state, but it can in concealment. Within this world, one could reveal the Pri Tzimtzum, or Ein Sof, as it is enclosed within Torah and Mitzvot, within the law and the action, within law and deed, within word and deed, fulfilling the purpose of creation to create a dwelling for God in the lowest realm. A vessel for God! Grass, birds, trees, people, animals, everything, everything, everything. Your shoes, or everything's made up of light. Everything's made up of God. Your food that you eat. This is my body broken for you. Drink this. This is my blood poured out for you. God gave himself for us to have life. God has life through us. We have life through him. It's a shared thing. God is not so small that he needs us, though. But he chooses. He wants us. He doesn't need us. This acts as an arousal from below and elicits a response from above in the form of reward in the Messianic era. Kabbalah explains the various names of God. One may not pronounce the 4 letters of God's name as they are written due to the name's great sanctity. We shall therefore employ the word Haveh to denote that name. The Tetragrammaton YHVH is composed of 3 words. Hayah He was, Hova He is, and Yaheh will be. So his name translates to he was, he is, and he will be. It's also Hashem, the name. That's all, I don't know, I've come to just Hashem, the name, just because it's ineffable. It's ineffable. It's unpronounceable. It's undescribable. God is so great all the time. So, let's get this to where I can read it. Sorry. Gosh, it's turning into a really long video. So this name describes the Sovev Kol Almin. In a later chapter, we shall discuss the name Haveh in a different context, as it relates to the 4 worlds. The name God that describes Mamel Kol Almin is Elohim. The numerical value of Elohim is the same as the word nature, Hateva, implying God's presence within creation. Kabbalah talks of the unification, or Yichud, there you go, between Haveh and Elohim. The Torah tells us, know this day that Haveh is Elohim. Hasidism calls it a unity of Sovev Kol Almin and Mamel Kol Almin, seeing God as both transcendent and immanent. We can now explain why God first revealed the infinite light and why only then, through a process of Tzimtzum, revealed the finite light. The purpose of creation is Dira Be-Taktonim, a dwelling place for God in the lower world. The purpose of creation is a dwelling place for God in the lower world. In order to fulfill this purpose, 2 things were necessary: the creation of a lower world and the ability of the lower world to be absorbed within the divine. Initially, God revealed the Or Ein Sof, the transcendent light of Kovev Kol Almin. Tzimtzum revealed Mamel Kol Almin. The Tzimtzum, this world, revealed matter and revealed the light of God. The outer light, the material light. Within revealing the material light, we reveal the light within. The light that's concealed within. Because it emanates forth from that light. It's the only light that's within you. It's what gives the outer light light. Because the outer light is only an emanation of the inner light that is pouring it forth. So, Tzimtzum revealed Mamel Kol Almin, since the latter stems from a pre-Tzimtzum light. It always, see, there, it just actually said what I just said. Tzimtzum, okay, it always has a desire and an ability to be nullified in its source. Simply put, God wants a person to live within this world and be above it at the same time. Being within Mamel Kol Almin while staying above is Sovev Kol Almin. In the mundane activities of business pursuits, eating, etc., one should know God in all their ways. In spiritual activities, one stands above the creation. When praying or learning Torah or the Word, the purpose of creation is the fusion of the two. This is achieved only through a total nullification, or betul, to Atzma, to God Himself, in fulfillment of His desire in creation. In here, I'll share the modes of creation real quick. Oh, it's going to be backward. Back. So, there you have it. The Tzimtzum, the created world, the light made manifest. The power of God channeled into this world. God is so amazing. I hope everybody just... Wow. Thank you guys. I appreciate being able to share all this. God bless you all. Stay awesome.